In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create a nice layered color here for the background of a film area chart in chartjs 4. So to do this, the first thing what we need is we need our boiler template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. Once you're on here, copy this chunk of code and you're good to go. Next, if you want to have the source code of this video and many others, check out my Patreon page. And of course, got a question, put it on Discord. All the links are in the description box. So what I want to do here first is convert this into an area chart. And an area chart is basically a line chart. If we do this, but we're going to have a filler underneath. So I'm going to say comma fill and set this on true. Very straightforward. So now what I would like to do is like using a traffic light configuration. Basically, if our area here or everything here below should be red, from 5 and below will be red, and then between it till 10 will be yellow, and everything above is positive, and we'll set that on or make that green. To make this background that kind of design, we're going to use some gradient structure. So basically here first, let's get the colors that we need. I'm going to remove the first or the lower 3, and then I'm going to remove the second one, which is blue. Now we have red, yellow, green. I'm going to use all of this. And then I'm going to just cut this out for now. And we're going to make here a callback functionality. We say here context, that, then. So what we're going to do then, once we have this callback functionality, we can just start to put in items. But let's do a console log first. Say context, save, refresh, and then make sure, of course, we have the comma here. There we are. Now we get some information here, but what I basically want is to calculate the dimensions here. This will become very important for me. And secondly, wherever the color value switch will happen, we need to calculate what we call the percentage of that. It sounds all very complicated, but let me show you how we do this, because we're going to use the gradient effect for that. So the first thing what I want to do is I want to basically get these colors or that we have here saved. Let's grab these. Then I'm going to say here constant, and then we're going to say a bg color. Very straightforward. Equals this array. Next, what I want to do here is having access to what we call the scale. So how do we get the scale here? That's basically chart dot scales dot y, and that's the one I really need because I need to know the number converted into a pixel value. And you can see here, once I do this, open up here, we can get here certain information, but I even need a function for that, but I need to have access to this specific item here, the scale y. Alright, so what we're going to do here now is, before we do anything else, we have to make sure that if we load it and it doesn't load anything, which usually happens in the first load, it will not load anything. We have to make sure we block the error message. So what I'm going to say here is, well, let me just show you first. We say context, then I'm going to we say here console log, and then context dot, and let's get the chart area as well. Chart.chart area. We'll be needing both of them anyway. This and the y scale are crucial. So if I have that and I go scroll here at the very top, we get the undefined. What I want to prevent is this undefined. So what I'm going to say here is, because this undefined will give us an error once we do the calculation, because it's not fully loaded. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this, and we're going to set here a if statement. So if there is none chart area, we just want to return nothing. That's it. Let's save that, refresh. All right. So what will happen is it will not create an error. It will prevent us from giving an error because it just returns nothing. And after, it happens in a split of a second because it will load 30 times or something like that because of the animation. And after that, it will work nicely. So now we have that. What I want to do next is do an object destructuring, and this is very familiar, but we're doing it now within the data set itself. So what I need is basically this. Instead of chart, we say context.chart, and then here I'm using context. So normally many people tend to use the shorthand of CTX, but CTX I'll be needing, so that will be in conflict. So I need the CTX, I need the chart area, and then specifically I want the top, bottom, and the height. Once we did that, I want to have the scales, and specifically the Y scale. And then I think we probably have everything what we need. So once we did this, we can now start to work with the gradient. So what I'm going to say here, constant. We'll name this the gradient bg. And the gradient bg will be, let's close this message here. The gradient bg will what exactly be? Will be ctx dot create linear gradient. And we need a linear gradient, and specifically, well, the first one will be x, that one is the y, and then we have here the width and height. In this case, I don't need x and I don't need the width. We're not playing with that one. So we just put that in 0, 0. There's no impact on that. But what I want is basically from top to bottom, impacting the top to bottom. And for the top to bottom, we're going to say here, well, basically the top and bottom. And these here is basically the top of the chart area and the bottom of the chart area that we want to play with, because we're going to make horizontal lines, but then gradually from top to down changing it. So once we have this, we can now start to calculate the item. So the first thing what I want to do is I'm going to say a constant, and I'll call this a range. And the range would be, I want let's say 5, everything below 5 will be red, or everything below 3 would be red, that's nice. And then from 3 to 10 will be yellow or orange, and everything above 10 is positive, so that's green. So we're going to make an array, say 3, 10, and I guess here we can say 18 or max. I'll just do 18 for now. But you could get here the value of max, which is basically y.max if I'm not mistaken. If I do this one here, we could do that one. Y.max, let's see if we get the highest value here. Whatever is the value. As you can see, it's 18. So if you have a last value, you can even do this one here instead. Save, refresh, beautiful. Alright, so what I want to do next is solve this. So how do I solve this? Or how do I continue on? Because if we look at a gradient or a canvas, the 0 is at the very top, and the bottom is the highest number on the vertical scale. And what I mean by that is this here in pixels would be maybe, if this is a height of 500 pixels, the bottom here is 500, this is 0. So that will mean that whatever we have here, the reverse is necessary, because we will start from the very top, then color this green, then color yellow, and then color red remaining. So that's why what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here, constant range reverse will be equal to the range.reverse method. Alright, so that's number 1. Once we have this, what I want to do next is, well, let's start to draw the items here. So to do that, I'm going to say here constant, or sorry, no, not even. I want to get this specific item. And then we're going to give it a color. We want the very top color. So what I'm going to say here, add a color stop. And this color stop will have a range in percentage from 0 all the way to 1 or 100 basically. So 1 would be the very bottom, 0 is the very top here. Not the chart area, but the very top here. So what we need to do here, or sorry, it is within this range that we have calculated, because I've said this is top and bottom is this. So that's it. So what we need to do now is to calculate that level of percentage. So how many percent would 18 be to 10? What is that percentage range here between a value of 0 and 1? And of course here the next value would be the color itself. So for the color, I'm just going to say here bg color index 0, and then here we'll just start at 0. What I want to do next then is have another color. Let's say if I'm going to say halfway, 50%, we'll make it yellow, or the second value. And finally, the third value, we'll make it at 1. Save, refresh, nothing happens yet. Why? We didn't return yet. So we say return and we will return this gradient background. Save that, refresh. And as you can see here, let's make this solid so you can see every item. Save, refresh. Now, as you can see here, it gradually shifts. But what I don't want this. I want an instant switch. So how do we do that? Well, basically, I just have to copy this, put it in here, and say 0. And then I want to copy this another one, put it in here, and let's say maybe here 75. So at 75%, and from this one here, from 0.75 onwards. Let's save that, refresh. Now we have these color coded here, but of course we need it in reverse order. So how do we do this? Well, I'm going to do the same thing here. This here needs to be soft coded first. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to say here a for loop item. So we say let I equals 0, and then what I want to do is for every I want to have the range dot length, and then we're going to say I plus plus. Doing this, make sure we have the I plus plus for increment. So for doing this, we're just going to add up here this item. So we're going to say add up here. Let's see, what do we need? We need, I guess, this. I can just say here, this will be equal to I. There we are, I guess. And then what I want to do as well is I want to get the value here. Right now we have a hard-coded value. This needs to be converted into a percentage, specifically with all of these. So how do we do that? Well, let me just show you. Let's start to do that one because I'm not able to continue on anyway. So we're going to say a constant range percentage. And the range percentage should be basically these values here. So what is number 10 here on the scale, the percentage. So let's start to calculate that. So the range percentage is basically, I'm going to use range.map method. And then what I'm going to say here, for every value of our array, an index, and function arrow expression, we're going to create a calculation and make a new array based on percentage. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say here, let's say let value will be equal what exactly? Well, in this case, what I need is I need whatever the value is. This value we're going to convert into a pixel value. So we say here y.get pixel for value, and the value would be whatever the value is, and this value is a loop of these items here, or maybe in the reverse one or the other. That would make a bit more sense in the reverse. So we have the reverse values. Sorry. And then what I need to do is we need to calculate here. I need to calculate the following. I need to divide this by probably by the height, because the height here calculates this item. So let's see what is the value in that case, or we can just say here, once we did that, return the val. All right, then say console log. Let's see what we're getting before I even do this. Let's hide that. Get the range percentage. Save, refresh. As you can see here, we're getting 3 items, and you can see these are the values. And I do realize that we need to probably remove the top pixel. And what I mean by the top pixel is this very top here. So how do we do that? Well, just say here whatever the value is minus top pixel. Then undo this. Let's save that. All right, so what's basically here, because we're getting this value, but we want to remove this chunk here, that's maybe 25 pixels. And then we divide by the height. The height will calculate exactly the length from this point to this here. So we just get that percentage position basically. And let's do this again and see if we are getting our values correct. And then let's open up this here, the console log. Open up our array, and you can see here it started at 0, and that's basically good. What we want to do is, because this is not allowed, if our value would be higher, if the max would, instead of this, or if this would be negative 0.5, it is, no, I guess it works. Or if I do 19 here, because basically what I have to do here is I am not allowed to be negative 0 or higher than 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force, if ever a value would be below 0, I need to force it as 0. That's the standard, or else we get an error. And the same is if we do it in a positive sense. So what I'm going to do here, I'll put it back on 3. This was the max, but I'm going to say here when I return, we just make an if statement. If the value is larger than 1, the value, we'll say value will be equal to 1. I guess we can just put it all together like that, and now I'll just do another one here for the 0. So if it's smaller than 0, the value will be set to 0. So we're allowed to reevaluate the value because of the let, so we can assign a new value to that, and that's what we're doing here. So now we have that here, and I think it will not really change here much, but let's see here. So what I'm going to do now is we have this, let's work on this area as well. Let's see here, we have this loop. I guess we need to loop through this item here, and this one is tricky as well because we are looping through it and we are not allowed to pass the I, or for if there's more than the length, that will be a problem. So what I want to do here is probably, well, what I will do is the following. I'm going to make a constant, let me just calculate that. We say constant range length minus 1 will be whatever is the range length minus 1 value. So once we did this, we have that there. Then what I want to do is I want to make sure in this for each loop we're going to check if the I that we have is smaller than the range length minus 1. In that case, what I want to do is I want to keep this in here, and then I add another one here. This is 0, but this should be our range percentage. So we're going to say here with the I, and then I'm going to say here I plus 1. So basically I want the range from this to this, they're just between. And then what I will do is another one, else if we are surpassing this range length, if this is larger, then what I want to do is I'll just say here we're just going to get the value of I, and then here the very last value, whatever that value is. Well, we can put in here 1 because we know it's the very bottom, there's 100%. Then we say here the background color range minus, I guess we can just put that in there. And then once we've got that, we should just return gradient pg. Alright, so let's see. Oh, we already have that there. Let's see if we've got that. This was really tricky even for me. Let's save that. Alright, that looks quite nice. So what is the problem here? Why is this still not really working as what I was hoping for? Let's save that, refresh. You can see this works. It's all perfect, but the color is not correct. We need to reverse our color array as well. So what I'm going to do here, constant reverse bg color equals whatever the background color is, reverse. So you select a setup or you do it in advance so you don't have to do a reverse. It's one or the other. But if I do this, we should have now the matching colors. Alright, that looks phenomenal. Then I guess for our line here, If we don't want any color, we just make this transparent. This is of course a string value, save, refresh. There we are, and I think that looks quite nice. I would say these dots maybe should be gone. However, else you can say here black, make this a 3 pixel, give it a bit of color. Well, that's maybe too much. 1 pixel should be fine. Like that, and there we are. So what happened if we have another value? The value needs to be beyond the max is the highest, so everything else here between. So let's say here 3, 5, 7, and then we want to make this. Let's grab some other colors. 0, 100 or 100. Then do another one. 166. Let's save that. Are we missing anything? I think, are we missing a color? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should have 5 colors here. That's it. This looks quite nice, and so you can play around with a lot of these colors here. Let's put that all back. Then we are good to go. Make sure you have these, of course, set properly. Alright, and that's it.